Okay. I'm giving out two pieces of paper. You don't need that. They are in the module. Take one of each and pass around. We'll take one. We did this already. You might remember. We did part one. So the one that says, it doesn't say part one, it just says fall 2025. Part two says part two. Okay? Part one looks like this. We did this already. We reviewed this already. If you want, I can do it again, but I want to do part two first. Everyone has. Okay, I'll pass it to the side. Get up. Got both. Okay. Everyone. We did this already. So I want you to, for those of you who have it, we'll get it part two. You should hold part two in your head. And we did part one. We can do it again if you'd like, but let's do part two. Okay, here we go. You have part two in your head. Zionism was the class. We learned about the Dreyfus Affair. The Dreyfus Affair was where the French general was accused of spying and eventually found innocent and accused. And there was a man at the trial. He was a journalist. His name was Theodore Herzl. Seeing the anti-Semitism to a French general, he wrote a book called The Jewish State, and which was the first. Again, there were many Zionist ideas, but the first person who had this idea and pushed it and created a Zionist Congress and Zionism, and that all came out of the Dreyfus trial. And then he went to the world and tried to sell Zionism. The Reform Jewry rejected it because, especially the Reform Jews in America and in Germany, they were like, no, we love Germany, we love America, that's our home. We're not going to some backwards country that no one's lived in for hundreds of years. We're not going to move back there. We love the freedom, liberty, everything about America and Germany. However, there was a man whose name was Louis Brandeis. He was the first Jewish Supreme Court justice. That's important to know. And he created American Zionism. American Zionism was, we support the state of Israel, especially as based on an American model, meaning a place of liberty and freedom, especially for the millions of Jews worldwide who are oppressed, which was most of the Jews of Europe at the time. It doesn't mean that every Jew it doesn't mean that a Jew only can live in Israel. No, you can be American and be a Zionist. That was Louis Brandeis. Okay, we spoke about anti-Semitism. In the last sheet, we also did Salisbury, that's what it says last sheet. But in the 1900s, there was something called the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which started out as a Russian propaganda, and it was translated by Henry Ford into English, and it was labeled the International Jew. We spoke about Henry Ford, him being an anti-Semite, the Dearborn Independence. We did a lot of that. Again, I want to just repeat, this is a review. I'm not teaching this for the first time. It's to remind you what, of all the things that I said, what's on the final. And if it's not on this sheet, it's not on the final. But obviously, I'm not teaching you that for the first time. Just be clear about that. Leo Frank, we spoke about, who was lynched. The famous story where he was accused of murdering a young girl, where even though the governor only commuted to life instead of death sentence, the people of the South of Georgia had him lynched. We talked about Father Coughlin, who had a radio program, especially more and more popular after the Great Depression, and Charles Lindbergh as well in the World War I. So this is not really all at the same time, but there's all the idea of the anti-Semitism that existed in America. We spoke about 1917, a year that changed the world. We spoke of the Balfour Declaration. That was the state, His Majesty's government is in favor of a Zionist state, where Zionism came, instead of being just some random guy's dream and some random idea, became a reality. Communist revolution, where communism took over Russia, it changed the trajectory, it even affected the last thing we just did with our Fuseniks, but also became relevant because communism became a thing of the world. And in America, there were a lot of people who sided with communism, especially Jewish people. World War I, the Treaty of Versailles. We spoke about this, how the Treaty of Versailles ended up being the cause for World War II. We spoke about it, that in America there was an end of immigration, which is why on our timeline there is a hard stop in 1924, the Johnson-Reed Act, which was the no more immigrants, basically. And that obviously had a big effect on the Jews of America, the Jews of the world. And we talk about prohibition briefly, how it was part of that anti-immigrant, part of the turning on all immigrants who are changing America. We spoke about the Great Depression, the causes. We spoke about, especially after World War I, where Germany had to pay all these reparations. We spoke about that was the long-term causes, the debt circle, and the immediate causes that people were speculating that banks failed. And of course, what was relevant to this class, it had a very big effect on the rise of Nazism, where the Nazis had originally, Hitler had started in the 1923s and 24, when the Weimar Republic was struggling, debt and inflation. But once they got that under control from 25 to 30, 31, there was no Nazi party to speak of, except once the Depression hit again, and Germany was penniless and had no economy. That was led to the rise of the Nazi Party, so much so by 1933, Hitler was appointed chancellor. We spoke about the Nazi rise, and what do? How do you deal with the fact that there's a country, 1933, 35, which has these very anti-Semitic laws? Do you boycott it? What do you do? We spoke about the Wannsee Conference, which is again a little bit later on, which was once Hitler and the Nazis conquered most of Europe, they had a conference in this suburb called Wannsee, where they came up with a final solution. No longer would they be just okay with getting the Jews to leave Germany. Now that they conquered Poland and Russia, they basically were like, we're going to final solution, we're going to kill all the Jews. Obviously, I did not see the movie yet, but there's a movie that just came out with Russell Crowe about Hermann Göring. I don't even know what it's called, but about the trial at the end of the war. Very interesting. I will probably see it at some point, especially since next semester I'm teaching history of the Holocaust. The Nuremberg Laws, which was a question of who was a Jew. We had that chart with the little circles. Again, if you want to kill Jews, you got to define what a Jew is. And it's the first time in history that race was used as a definition of Jewry. We spoke, which is important to this class, what was the response of the world in America? We spoke about the St. Louis ship. That was that ship that was denied entry to Havana, Miami, Canada. What was Roosevelt's, what did he do right or wrong? Should he have bombed the railway to Auschwitz? Should he not have? We spoke about that he really didn't do anything, except at the end of the war, his good friend, Henry Morgenthau, who was the Secretary of the Treasury, did form a war refugee board, did a little bit towards the end of the war, not too much. And we spoke about Peter Bergson, whose real name was Hillel Koch, who led the Jewish push to always do something. He was joined by the guy Ben Hecht. We spoke about Ben Hecht. He's the one who wrote the poem, The Ballad of the Doomed Jew, that we read together in class. And they were like the Jewish leaders who were vocal and active in trying to push America, to get America to do something, and American Jews, which also most rabbis and leaders did very little in the wake of the Holocaust. We spoke about winning the war versus ending the Holocaust. Okay. Then we spoke about the past two classes, American culture. We spoke about, as you see here, 7A Bess Meyerson. She was the Miss America, first and only Jewish Miss America, 1945, as the Holocaust ended. Spoke about how the Jewish population, especially the homegrown Jewish population, that means because again, America had stopped immigrants in 1924, and still, even after the Holocaust, there weren't immigrants yet. So that next generation of Jewish people were, first generation, buying apartments, moving out, and the Bronx, the Grand Concourse, was one of the most Jewish areas of the world, actually, in 1950s. The rise of conservative Jewry we spoke about. The rise when the idea to be American and to be Jewish, how does that work together? And we focused on, really quickly, on driving on Shabbos, because also the 1950s, the suburbs started. People started moving out into the suburbs, Long Island, and no longer were you able to be near your synagogue. It wasn't around the corner, it wasn't in your apartment building. Are you allowed to drive on the Sabbath? Meaning, How do you stay American? How do you move to the suburbs and still stay Jewish? How do you follow laws? That's conservative Judaism. The one thing we didn't get a chance to speak about, unfortunately, today was modern Orthodoxy, which I guess we could have, but it chose to finish early. But that's all part of defining Jewry within the context of America and dealing with the realities of America. So that's driving it. Shabbos, and of course, talking about G.I. Jew. This is at set 7B. We watched the trailer for that, which is for all the hundreds of the thousands of Jews in the American army. Because again, don't forget, 2.4 million Jewish Russians came between 81 and 1924. So their children or grandchildren were American citizens over 18, and they went to fight. And tens of thousands, 100,000 went to fight in World War II. And what was it like to fight for World War II, knowing that it was also the Holocaust, knowing that people were still anti-Semitic? We saw a quick, we watched a little clip of that. 1950s, we spoke about the Rosenbergs. That was the Jewish couple who were accused and convicted of spying for Russia and giving them the atomic secrets, the atomic bomb. And the fact that they were Jewish and communist was, for some people, a big deal. For others, it wasn't. But at least the point is that it makes sense. Based on everything we said, there were many Jews who were communists who believed in communism still at that point. It took another decade or two until that ended. But again, it brought up the unfortunate question, which is, are Jews loyal to America or not? And unfortunately, him being a spy for Russia did not help that matter. And that brought to the next question, which was the creation of the state of Israel, again, which is a course in and of itself. I was going to tell you that there's a course next semester called Modern Israel, and I really wanted to recommend that everyone take that class. But since no one signed up for the class, I think we're canceling it. Unless everyone quickly registers for the class, it looks like it's going to be canceled, which is a shame. But relevant to here, there are those two letters we saw from 1950 and 1956 between Jacob Blaustein, who was the leading Jewish industrialist here in America, and David Ben-Gurion, who was the Israeli prime minister, saying that Ben-Gurion writing to the Jacob Blaustein, yes, it is true, no Jew in America has any loyalty to the state of Israel. The state of Israel is nothing, yes, sir. No, can you say that again? That no Jew in America has any loyalty to the state of Israel. The state of Israel is not a state of Jews, it's the state of Israel. And we saw that also then when we saw Truman's acceptance or the de jure recognition of Israel, that a Jewish American is not a citizen of the state of Israel. He's a citizen of America. And just because you're Jewish, that doesn't mean you have to move there or that's your country. And that was that, again, the Jews of America were afraid that they would be labeled as unloyal citizens to America. So that's why it's in the same category as the Rosenberg spies, because, oh, we lost that, where did it go? Right, okay. And then there was a more general question, that's why I have it here as who is a Jew? And we spoke about brother Daniel, Oswald Rufusson, born a Jew, became a Catholic monk, saved Jews in the Holocaust, wanted to move to Israel. Was he Jewish? Was he not Jewish? And again, the definition of what a Jew is, what is the state of Israel, are all tied together in this topic. Briefly, what we saw about Above and Beyond, which was a movie about how the American Jewish pilots went to Israel to start the Israeli Air Force in 1948. We saw about Levittown, which was that first suburb, that first mass-produced suburb of Long Island, where unfortunately there was a lot of racism, institutional racism, which is why black people were not able to buy in these new suburbs, which has a lasting effect until today on segregation or modern-day segregation. Who? Brother Daniel left Poland and tried to immigrate to Israel in the 1950s. Poland. Okay. Yeah, Russia really, but Poland. And then, but interestingly, back to left and what? I mean, Russia was part of the communist bloc. Yeah, so it doesn't make. Don't worry, it's not such a big deal. But interestingly, that like Levittown and Long Island, where black people were redlined, were not allowed to buy houses, Jewish people were. And so the anti-Semitism, really, the 1950s, especially in the wake of the Holocaust, was not as pronounced or almost for a time period was not on the surface, and that is why many Jews ended up moving to the suburbs, as we pointed out, suburbia Kar Shabbos, which is what we had above. I just wanted to repeat itself. Then we spoke about the 1960s. That was last time about the NAACP, which is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, which was started by Henry Moskowitz, who's not here, so you don't have to know who it is, and led during the civil rights movement by a Jewish person named Kivi Kaplan, as well as we spoke about Andy Goodman, who was that young man who went down to the South to help register blacks to vote and was killed. And his killing led to a recognition of what was going on. And that, as his brother pointed out in the video, unfortunately, they took a Jewish kid to be killed to bring about to the conscience of Americans how bad the plights of the Jim Crow laws were in the South. And that the Jews were at the forefront of the civil rights movement, including especially Rabbi AJE Heschel, who always marched with MLK, especially on Selma Bridge. And we pointed out that in the movie of Selma, they removed the rabbis because it is no longer politically correct to speak about how the Jews were at the forefront of the civil rights movement. We spoke about two other rabbis, Uri Miller and Joachim Prinz, who actually spoke at the March on Washington in 1963. And then we spoke about one of the flashpoints where the black and Jewish community sort of split up. That was the Brownsville School District. The young girl's poem, we saw that, where she basically wished all the Jews to die. But more important, she basically said, listen, I don't care about the Holocaust, we've been suffering for 400 years, which again was a legitimate point, and dealt with the feelings of the black community, which unfortunately caused a rift between the blacks and Jews in America in the 60s, and which lasted for quite a while. I pointed out here, it was the Crown Heights riots in the 90s were really a continuation or an outgrowth of that rift that happened in the late 60s, 70s, which never really healed. And it continued, especially in the 60s and 70s, with Jesse Jackson, a leader of the civil rights movement, who took the PLO side, the side of the Arafat, the terrorist. And we spoke about that a lot had to do with 6-Day War. Now that the Jews, the state of Israel, the state of Israel had conquered and won so much territory, and now they became, instead of being the oppressed, the oppressor. So both in America, where the Jews of the Jews had succeeded and were not segregated in the 1950s and 60s, who because of their success, the black community and especially the state of Israel's success in the 1960s, the Jews of America and of in Israel switched from being the oppressed to the oppressor, and that was in the minds of many people, and that made a big difference. And today, that's D10. We did a Koch, Soviet Jewry, Khan, Refusnik. We didn't do modern orthodoxy. We did feminism, and we did Bella Abzug. So everything I just said is fair game for the test. If I didn't say it, not going to be the test. That's part two. Okay, part one we did already. So you have this other sheet. It's a two-sided sheet. That's what we did for the first half of the semester. So between all you need to know, now, again, there's more than I just said today for this. But if it's not something that I mentioned, you don't have to know it. So again, I had lectures. I spoke for a long time. So if it's not on the lecture, it's not here, you don't have to know it. If it's here, you have to know what I said in lecture. But if it's not here, you don't have to know it. Yeah.
What's the format of the test?
Excellent. The format of the test is almost all short answer. I don't do multiple choice. So bring a pen and pencil with you next Wednesday, 12:30. And I don't do, again, as I said, I don't do multiple choice. It's a waste of time for everyone's time. It's short answer. Now, I'll give you an example. One could be, who is Bella Abzug? Tell me what you know about her. Another could be, now, people ask in history class, tell me about dates and times. You'll notice there's almost no dates on this piece of paper. You don't know it. I could ask you about 1924, because that's here, or 1917. But there's almost no dates. I'm not a big fan of dates, because anything you can Google it. So I want to know the ideas of the concept. So I could ask you, who was Louis Brandeis? What do you know about it? Or I could ask you a little more specific. What was Louis Brandeis' ideas about American Zionism? Things like that. So, like, there'll be names, like of people, or ideas, what they did. So let's go back to the first sheet. For example, it does say Pittsburgh Platform in 1885. That's a date. There are very few dates here. Like I'll ask you, who was Aaron Lopez, right? Well, so a lot of it, or what is our crown, right? These are a lot of it's going to be basically the same words that you see on these two review sheets. What do we learn about it? Or who are they? What do they do?
And how many questions also?
Usually between 20. I didn't take a test yet, to be honest. I do teach this class every year, so I try to like switch it around. Usually 20 to 25 short answer questions. I mean, don't hold me to it because I'm not promising a number, but around that number. Really, it's straightforward. It's not going to be tricky. It's just really, if you know this, you'll perfect on the test. So you missed the beginning, and for those who missed the beginning, I'll go back a second. No. Okay. Yeah, you a student. Okay. So let's say, and again, I'm doing this as a test student, so that I don't want to call out anyone's grades here. So this test student, Mr. and Mrs. Test student, again, always remember to unclick the little box here. Right now, there are 1,325 points available in this class. Let's say you did all your assignments. So you have, something that's 2 points off here and there. Let's say you have 1,300 out of 1,325 points. Right? You're doing great, A+. That includes already the assignment that I posted today, final assignment number 1 for 100 points, which you obviously didn't do, because no one did, because I posted it 10 minutes before class started. There'll be a final assignment number 2. So let's say, and then which will be another 100, that's 1,425. Let's say the final is 175, probably be more, but let's just say, it's round number 1,600. There are 1,600 points available in this class. If you get a 0 on the final, if you don't show up to the final, if you did everything else, and you already have 1,425 points out of 1,600, of course, right? So you're probably at an A, still get an A or an A-. So the final is important. It'll be, I'd say, probably 250 points, which, if you do the math of the class, 250 out of 1,700, right, is, I don't know, what? No, 450 plus 250.
Yeah, so that would be 1,700.
Something right, 700. So 250. So 250 is almost like 1/7 of the class. But so if you don't take the final at all, and every other point possible, you're looking for an A and A-. It's all about that number of points at the bottom of your piece, at the bottom of what you see here. Right now, okay, it's 1,325. You probably got, let's say, 1,650, 1,700. It's just what your number is of this. Clear?
So as long as you got like about 1,400.
I can do the math. I get my A+ is 98%. A is 91, 92%. So let's do it real quickly. Let's say just I don't know every year because everyone's always different amount of points. I didn't give enough assignments this semester, happens to be. So 0.92 times 1,700 is 1,564. So you'd have to take some of the test to get an A. You wouldn't be able to get let's say if it's 60, let's say if it's.
You can still pass the class.
Oh, yeah, pass? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so even if we ended up 16, you would have to take the test. It would be impossible to get an A without taking the final, but A- for sure, because A- is 89.
Any essay questions on the final?
So not long essays.
Like what you said here, like a few paragraphs, blah blah blah.
No, 2 paragraphs sounds a little bit long for a final.
So it's just 25 questions.
Yeah, short answer does mean I have 3 or 4 sentences.
Okay. And are you gonna be like explain this?
Like, if I ask you to tell me, what the idea of American Zionism was, it'll take you 3 sentences to get it out.
Just any of the proper sentences.
I'm not your English teacher. So if you spell incorrectly, I'm not going to take any points for misspelling or, I have to be able to read it. So for those of you with penmanship issues, you have to work a little harder. So as I said, it definitely bumps people up from. I don't make attendance mandatory in this class. I make participation a fudge factor. That means anyone close to a border will get a higher grade. You know what I mean? So if you, in other words, the percentages which go for A- and all that The better your attendance, the higher the possibility. Any questions?
The final assignment, is that an extra assignment?
Not extra. That's the. In other words, instead of having an essay on the final, it's a take-home part of the final.
So you were supposed to do.
There'll be another one also, yes. And it's actually quite straightforward.
We'll have another one?
There will be another one. It's
When are you gonna?
So I'll publish it. Basically, it's just watch this video. It's actually, I like this assignment very much. It's watch this video, which is, why did I take this class? Why did I have to sit through this guy lecturing for for hours and FB, hours and hours? I could have just watched this 10-minute video and learned everything. No, not really. 8-minute video. So my question to you is, now that you took this class, tell me what you think of this video. Now that you know American history, you took this class, what do you think about this 8-minute video? Is it good? Is it bad? What is it missing that you would think that, because now that you took the class, it should have been included? Right? So it's basically, now that you know this class, what do you think of this video? And again, I'm a big believer in your opinion and no AI. AI, I know one thing, did not take this class. Not Chat, not Claude, not Gemini, not Copilot. None of them took this class. So if you do this at AI, and people have, you're not going to get any points because you're not going to tell me what I taught in class that is missing from this video. It'll make up ridiculous stuff, and that's happened. And it will come up with good ideas of things in American history that's missing, but also something that I didn't say. So that's how I know. Same way, when I get the Fiddler on the Roof report, and all of a sudden I hear about the cinematography, I know it's, hey, come on, guys. You got to be able to work a little harder. But I had Claude. Chat's not going to help you. You know what Claude is, right? Claude's like a different type of AI. It's much better. It's more personal. Chat is very, very impersonal. Gemini's okay. You never heard of Claude? You're the computer guys. You've heard of Claude. Claude Code's going to have a big effect on your jobs.
Very much.
It's going to make your jobs, or not, you might not get a job.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be, or you have to know it very well. You saw the thread on Twitter on Claude.
I didn't.
You should see it. The creator of Claude Code was explaining how he works and how the future programmers, what they're going to do. Anyway, you'll Google it. Brian someone, the guy who invented Claude Code.
Yeah, I heard about it.
No, you have to read that thread.
Sure,
Yes, you have to read that thread. Yes.
So is this assignment part of our, like the final?
Again, there's no final because it's all points. But yes, it's part of your final. Does that make sense?
See the final second two points.
Right. There's the take-home part. There's 2 take-home parts of the final, and there's an exam in person next Wednesday.
Also, if you have missed assignments, right?
Still do it.
Still doing, I was gonna ask how many points, like, are you?
Just do it.
Okay, no, I'm done.
Just do it.
I'm done.
Okay. If, like, I think you emailed me already. I just saw my phone. If you emailed me already, if you have something that you did, especially again, if it's let me leave student view. If you are again, if it's an assignment like this, that's here. Oh, right. So this one also, right? No. Right. So it's also a Google form. All the Google forms. If you did it and I didn't grade it yet, send me. I'm going to do it. Just send me an email. It won't hurt. Good?
Yes.
Any questions?
Will you be posting the second part?
Today.
Okay.
Yeah.
For next week.
It's due by the final. Yeah. It's also due by the study. The final is from 12:30 to 3. I don't think anyone would need 2.5 hours, but 2 points. Come late, still won't get till 3. Second point, if you have a disability and they filed with the college that you get extra time and you want that, and you have an accommodation through the college, let me know. Email me because I have to leave to my next final at 3:10 next week, but I will make sure you get a proctor. So if you have the right to extra time or time and a half, whatever it may be, let me know so that I can make sure there's a proctor so you can go until 4:30, whatever, 4:15. Again, I'm not calling anyway. I don't know. I don't remember if you emailed me. I didn't check your file. But if you have that, you have to let me know so I can arrange a proctor. Yes.
So, like you said, there's gonna be like 3 cards, the final, to take home and one next week. Are they all gonna be graded individually, or is it gonna be like?
No, everything is on grade. So that means all graded individually. So like as I said, like this, like this final assignment is on 100 points. Stand alone. Any other questions? Please come with a pen. Write neatly. I'll see you all 12:30 next week. Okay.